It was just a normal day for Trakeena. She was sitting in her secret base, completely alone. Recently, she had been lost a fight against the Power Rangers. She had lost almost everything that she had, including her minions. She wanted a really big revenge against her mortal enemies, the Power Rangers. But she knows that she has no chance by herself. She wanted to fight, but she had seems like herself she told herself she had no chance against the Power Rangers. But she knows maybe if she could find someone to ally with, and maybe she would have a chance to fight against the Power Rangers. But who to ask, she had no idea. But then she came across someone that she might be able to help her. And that was in fact Rito. Rito Revolto had been someone that she thought maybe could help her. Despite he is being not a very skilled fighter, but even herself, she wanted to be able to defeat her enemy. And since she had no way to find him, or at least no idea where he's located, but after some finding, trying to search, she managed to track him down to another type of his own base, some sort of course of that. And when she convinced him to join her in the order to fight and even destroy the Power Rangers for good. But even though Rito himself was not even convinced no matter what, he preferred not to be in a fight against them anymore, since he always loses against them, and he always had no idea how to fight them. But she managed to convince him if they both joined forces to make more of her minions, they might have a chance to fight, at least give the Power Rangers a very honorable fight, and also a way to end them for permanently. But there were some things about Rito. First of all, he had no budget for any minions of his own. He never had any, and despite he knows that Trakeena is in fact the daughter of the galactic tyrant Scorponius and unknown female from a different unknown world. But despite that, she actually wanted to be able to defeat her enemy once and for all. Even Rito wasn't that clever in order to perform any militaristic tactics, strategy to being able to defeat an enemy or basically anything. But after that, he managed to be convinced by Trakeena in order to wait for stop the enemy for permanent end. But in Rito's mind, she was a very beautiful woman, but he had no idea of that he ever never had any chance with her. After all, he looked like a walking skeleton when she looked a beautiful human woman. Despite that, she can also have her insectoid features. But he would try to make her happy at any way. So they start planning to find a way to stop this the supposed great enemy of the Power Rangers. And after a while, they managed to track down all the things they needed. They planned to build a bomb in order to stop their enemy by trapping them inside a cave. Trap by lowering them inside, there are people, or at least miners, that have been trapped inside, and then blow up the mine with them inside with the bomb. But they had to figure out, they had to realize that maybe the Power Rangers would not even fall for this plan. At least according to Rito. But Trakeena managed to convince him that it will work, and they managed to place the bomb inside the mine and even broadcast signal that a lot of trapped people or miners were trapped inside the mine and they can't get out. As the Power Rangers agreed to help, they went to the mine and they all went inside. And as they were on the same depth where the supposed miners being trapped, they realized they were a trap for them. As they were realized though, Trakeena activated the bomb and exploded. And they finally believed they had destroyed their arch enemy, the Power Rangers, for good. They celebrated by having a great time, like they actually really felt joyed they had managed to destroy their own enemy. But it wasn't that long lived, because just shortly after they both had left the area to go back to the supposed base to celebrate even more, the Power Rangers managed to blow up their outside from the mine, and it wasn't even taking long for both Trakeena and Rito to find out about this. And Trakeena, she was furious. She literally furiously she transformed from her human form to her insectoid form, and she was furious. Even Rita himself was a little bit upset about this plan didn't even work out as they originally thought. But despite that, they tried to figure out another way to permanently end their arch enemy, the Power Rangers, for good. But despite they had tried to figure out a way to stop them, every single attempts they made all failed with a big failure. They tried to trap them inside in a canyon, they tried to capture them by a force field, and even with another bomb, but with an even more powerful one, and even they with multiple bombs in the area, tried to bury them beneath. And they try to attack their robots with bombs by burying them, or at least destroy them at least. But every single attempt failed, and every time that they failed, Trakeena became even more furious, and she literally almost destroyed their own base. She couldn't even believe it. She was getting frustrated. How could she do anything that she wanted to destroy her enemy, but always fails? But Rito, despite that he's also been upset about their plans never worked out as they originally planned to, but he always tried to convince that there might be some way. If they may have found something more powerful than a regular bomb, like maybe a nuclear bomb, but that was something Trakeena never crossed. But there were maybe that something that could happen if they could separate their team members on different locations. Together, as Olympic being, was an almost unstoppable force, but separate one by one might be able to defeat their enemy easier. But they had to really realize if one of their team members are being attacked by either one of them or both are together, they were always being responded for and requested for backup, and that's always where they come. But if they manage to trap each single member under maybe as far deep they can, and by by literally burying one by one and destroying another bomb so they would be buried beneath, they thought about this idea. But then they realized they had just one problem. They had used up all the resources for the bombs, and they didn't have any more left. So before they could do this plan, they had to figure out to find more and even more powerful explosives for the bomb this time. And after Trakeena, by using her human form as Tracy, she managed to track down some military grade explosives, which she managed to steal, and that Rito and she could build at least multiple bombs and hid them in different locations where they planned being trapping one by one of the Power Rangers. Despite though even Rito did admit this plan might not even work, but Rita, Latarkina, she would not want to even hear about it. This time she really believed they would be able to defeat the enemy. And only about a few days after they managed to build the new bombs and even place them in different locations, they lured out the Power Rangers. And they even managed to separate them off from the two one by one. And after nearly almost all of them being buried, there was only one left. But they even managed to bury that one also. And they even went back to the base and waited for any sort of response or even news that the Power Rangers did survive. But as the day went, there were no any signs or news about the Power Rangers. The city and the world thought maybe the Power Rangers finally was defeated. And even during that night, Trakeena felt heartbroken, or at least she felt some sort of restless. Had she finally defeated her own enemy after all this time? But it was part of her that felt maybe they did survive and just waiting to break free from their prison. As they went there then the next day, still no signs of the Power Rangers, and now the people really believed they were dead. But that changed around noon that same day, when all the Power Rangers actually managed to break through from their prison underground, and Trakeena lost her mind. She never wanted to be on this crazy planet anymore. All plans failed. She tried to stop their enemy from even rising from the dead, but every single time it failed, and they had no idea what to do next. Trakeena and Rito had almost given up hope to be able to find a way to stop the enemy. Even Rito had suggested they could somehow maybe reach out to her father, Scorpius, to ask to maybe aid him with some army. But she even refused because she told him she had learned that her father, Scorpius, was dead, and she was the next in heir of the throne. So Torito, he asked her, why continue to do this? Why continue to try to focus to defeat their enemy? They could always go back to their home planet and forget about Earth, and start living her new life as the galactic tyrant as a queen of her own planet. Despite knowing that she could just go back home, and since she's the only heir left to the throne though, as what she knows. But going back to the fight without leave before being able to defeat her enemy. She tried at least one more time to be able to defeat her enemy, but this time she had managed to build at least 10 more bombs of military grade explosives. But this time they weren't even separated as from one place of its own. They managed to build, at least buried all the bombs under just 1 feet of dirt, and was hoping that the Power Rangers would be able to be stopping, standing just above the bombs, and she would detonate it, and the explosion would be probably strong enough to be damage to their robots, or even perhaps even killing them. Despite though, Rito themselves were not even convinced this time it even worked, but what have they had to lose? So they actually managed to build at least 10 bombs and bury it just 1 feet below the ground. And they managed to lure the Power Rangers in the same spot. And just as Rita the Rakina made her point, she wanted them to be dead so she can just feel feeling satisfied that she had taken care of her biggest problem that has ever since she came to Earth. But the Power Rangers though, they didn't even listen to that. They tried to fight, but as they were about to leave with stepping forward, Trakeena pushed the button and all the 10 bombs exploded right beneath the Power Rangers. And sure enough, it ground beneath them collapsed into a huge hole. And it seemed that the Power Ranger was trapped or even dead. But they actually did survive. And once again, they actually defeated Trakeena once again, and she had lost it. She had lost it. She could not even stand it anymore. So she had to figure out a way, another different way to defeat the Power Rangers. But now Rito himself was over it. He told her, forget about the Power Rangers. You can be a queen of your own planet. Forget about them. Go back to your own planet and rule there. Without them, they can't even follow you there. And even hearing those words, he had a point. It seemed that all the tries that she had tried to fight and even destroy her enemy, the Power Rangers, all failed every single time. And for that, she gave up. But then she even asked Rito if he wanted to go back with her to her planet to be the new king. He was actually very surprised that she was inviting him to be it as her king of her own planet. And he even asked why that she wants him to be her king. She could rather have anyone else to be her king, someone more stronger, more powerful warrior, not as a failure as he is. But she admit, despite that they had lost, even he had lost so many times against their enemy, he had always been there to support her, try to figure out a different way to stop and to even destroy the enemy. And for that, he accepted the proposal, and even both of them just left Earth and went back to their home planet. Back home, she was actually greeted as the new queen of the home planet. Despite knowing that she might not be able to survive as the queen on her own. But Rito, after nearly about a year of being as her king, had actually proved himself. He had become more stronger, more powerful, and the people of their world feared him, but also at the same time respected him, as he proving to be a very strong leader. After that, after they had been like married for another 2 years, Trakeena, she wanted to have their own children with them. And after some time, they managed to at least have 2 daughters of their own though. But there were some things about this. Trakeena, she doesn't even regret any single day that she left Earth to be a queen of her own world. And even Rito, he didn't even bother himself to even go back to Earth because in his mind it was a waste of time to even to bother to fight the Power Rangers, even knowing that they may not be able to fight or even defeat their own enemy. And for that, he was just grateful to be alive and now to be a king of his own planet with Trakeena, and even have a family with her, despite knowing that they maybe not be able to have that, but they were both really at least happy about that. And this is how Rito, Revolto, and Trakeena are the true love who got a family together. The end.